Hey everyone, Dwight Kilpack here with Firefighter Interview Coaching.com. I just wanted to take a moment to talk to you about how the firefighter interview works and let you know what you can expect when you walk into your next firefighter interview. I hear people all the time tell me that they're really good at interviewing, but they really have a hard time getting past the firefighter interview. That's very common. It was common for me when I first started testing for the fire service. And that usually has a lot to do with how the firefighter interview is structured and exactly how it works. So I want to make sure that you understand that process and kind of the rules of the game before you walk into your next one. You may have heard this called the peer interview, the oral board interview. It's often called a panel interview. I've even heard it called a captain's interview sometimes. Understand this process is the same process pretty much coast to coast in the United States. Most departments don't really vary a whole lot from this procedure. There'll be some little differences and we'll talk about those as we go, but for the most part, this process is pretty much the same and the rules are pretty similar. When you walk into your interview, you're typically going to be greeted and welcomed into some sort of waiting room. You'll be asked to have a seat until the actual time of your interview starts. When your interview starts, they're going to invite you into the interview room and you're going to sit across from the panel. A lot of times there's going to be, anywhere from 3 to 6 other members who are going to be rating you. These could be people on the fire department, firefighters, officers, engineers. It could also be HR and hiring staff. Sometimes they even have a member from the community, and I've even seen a chief or two in there from time to time. That's not uncommon. But these people are going to be sitting across from you and they're going to be asking you structured interview questions. What I mean by structured interview questions, these are questions that are going to be asked to every other person coming in and interviewing that day. Remember, there could be hundreds of other people testing that day, and your job is going to be to stand out from that group, that large group of other people testing. And we have to do that when they're asking us the same questions that they're asking everybody else. That's typically where most people struggle here, is to set themselves apart from the crowd. We'll talk about more how to do that in these follow-up videos, but for now, I just want to kind of address the rules of this process. Those questions don't allow for a lot of follow-up. So they're going to ask you a question and they're just going to sit there and stare at you. Your job is to kind of give a speech in this situation. We want it to sound like a conversation, but there's really not a lot of back and forth. And there's really not a lot of interaction from the panel. And again, that's just for fairness. They may even be running more than one panel at a time. And so they really just have to ask you the question and let you answer the question however you're going to do it. You need to understand this interview is going to be timed. When you sit down, they're going to give you the time. They're going to let you know exactly how much time you have to answer however many questions that they're going to ask you. Typically, they're going to ask you from 3 to 8 interview questions. The time is typically between 15 to 30 minutes, but it does vary from time to time. So just listen carefully to what they tell you and keep that in the back of your head. Because when that time is expired, they are going to ask you to leave and they're going to stop rating you right there. So make sure you understand exactly where you're at. Some people even like to keep a watch on them. That's totally fine. They'd let you know if you can't do that, but keep that in the back of your head. The single most important thing that I hear candidates often forget: this interview is scored. Every question that they ask you is scored on a scale of 1 to 10. That means if you get asked 5 questions and you give them a knockout answer, say you get 10 out of 10 on the first 4, but you run out of time, the best score you could possibly hope to get is maybe 80%. That's probably not going to be enough to get you that job. Remember, we need to get the best score that we can. So as they're asking these questions, we need to figure out ways to get that extra little point or 2 out of each question, because ultimately that's what's going to land us the job. They're hiring 5 people, the top person and then the first person who doesn't get a job, the scoring difference there can often only be just a few points. So understand that each point that you get out of these questions is very important. At the end of the day, after they've scored you, they're just going to rank you. If 100 people are testing that day, they're going to rank them 1 to 100. And if they're hiring 5 people, the top 5 people are the ones who are going to get that job, or at least going to be the ones who move on to the next interview, often like a chief's interview or something like that. So basically that's how it works. There are some other variations that we'll talk about in further videos. There's video interviews, there's pre-recorded interviews, different things like that. That's kind of out of the scope of this video right now. But just understand that's the basic rules that you need to understand when you walk in, and keep those in the back of your mind when you're preparing for these interviews. I'm going to post up a bunch of more videos, on different questions, different strategies. We're going to go into a lot more depth on the interview process and how everything works. But it's very important that you know the rules when you're preparing. That way you can get the best score you can and really knock this out of the park. Make sure you're the one who lands that job. Like I said, there's going to be more videos coming out, but in the meantime, make sure you check out my website, firefighterinterviewcoaching.com. Subscribe to this channel because, like I said, I want you to be ready when these next videos come out. And I'm going to do everything I can to help you guys get that job. Thanks for tuning in, and more to come.